There's a significant disconnect in the way that traditional media and social media users are appraising the events currently unfolding in Iran. On one hand, you have the traditional media telling you that it's a regional crisis, it's a Middle Eastern crisis, it's the Iran war, and it's a specific attempt to disconnect the events happening over there with the lived realities of people elsewhere, specifically people living in the West. And then you have social media users who are seemingly portraying an understanding of the interconnectedness of our world. Because the most popular meme that you often see is people telling you that they are witnessing the unfolding of World War III before their eyes, which suggests that they somehow get that what is happening over there relates to them, but they just don't know what the link is. And all of this had me ask a question. How do wars and such events get their names? And more importantly, from whom do they get these names? History gives us a good illustration on this question. And let's talk about World War One. Now, I'm going to make a very quick brush summary of what has happened, but remember that there's a lot more nuance and it's worth reading more on it. But here's the gist of it. The events that we know as World War One today were not always known as World War One. At first, it was called the Great War, because by that time, for most observers, this was the most devastating and chaotic event that they had ever witnessed. They never expected that there would be a World War II, so they called it the Great War, hoping that that was the biggest thing that they would ever experience. But then the name had to change when World War II broke out, and they witnessed even greater devastation. And because they had to name World War II something, they said, why don't we name the first thing World War One, so then we have a World War II? It's important to get it because, as we often know, the victors are the ones who write the story. So the lions are the ones who are calling the war whatever they want for their own purposes. Now let's flash forward to the present times, the events unfolding in Iran. What are they? Are they a regional crisis or are they a World War III? We can get there, but there are a few things we have to keep in mind. The first is that our world and our societies are much more interconnected than they were in the past when we had World War One and World War II, which means that when events are unfolding, we may not see the same level of destruction directly. We may not have, tragically, the same number of deaths of human casualties, but it doesn't mean that the impact of what is happening is not at an equal scale. There are two things that have happened that are prompting this reflection. The first is Iran's decision to close the Strait of Hormuz, where I think a fifth of our oil, the energy that we use to fuel and to power everything that we use, comes from or transit through. The second thing that happened, which I think flew under the radar of many people, is that Iran targeted a data center in Bahrain, if I'm not mistaken. And their argument was that the data center was being used for intelligence operation by the other parties. And after that targeting of the data center, it was reported that in some places, some people were unable to use, their connected devices. They were unable to pay for certain things because the data center had been targeted. It tells you and it gives us a glimpse of how interconnected the things are. The media, the traditional media, wanting us to believe that it's a regional crisis, I think is a flawed idea. It is not just a regional crisis because what is happening has very global ramification. If the transit of oil is disrupted, then our very existence and everyday lives are being threatened. Our way of life and our lifestyles are being threatened, and we'll have to adjust accordingly. Likewise, if data centers are being targeted, then the wonderful AI that we all rely on will likely be affected, and so on and so forth. You can see the ramifications of what we're saying. So like I said, just because we don't have the same number of casualties or geographical representation or devastation does not mean that the impact of what is going on right now does not concern the entire world. Should we then call it a world war? I don't know. Maybe not yet, but we have to understand one thing. It is absolutely, definitely not a regional crisis. So the next time you put on the news, look at the frame that they are giving you. And if they talk to you about an Iran war, they are wrong. And the reason why they are doing that is because they don't want you to realize that your own life is at stake in what is currently being fought over there. And this goes beyond Iran. This goes beyond what is going on over there. It is about how systems are being developed and world orders are being created to keep us indifferent to the suffering around the world and to the suffering that is coming to us. I hope that made sense. See you tomorrow, hopefully.